Helldivers 2 throws you into basic training, straps you to a rocket, and then sends you to go fight in total war. Along the way, there's a few things the game forgets to tell you, and they make a world of difference when hordes of aliens and robots are breathing down your neck. My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today I'm sharing everything I wish I knew sooner about Helldivers 2. A lot of these tips are going to be short, but nonetheless hugely impactful on your gameplay. Like I said in the intro, there's a lot the game doesn't tell you. First and foremost is that you can swap between first-person and third-person mode with every gun. Who knew? On keyboard and mouse, you do this by clicking your middle mouse button, and there is an equivalent on the PlayStation controller you can look up in the keybinds menu. I personally enjoy both perspectives. I find third person to be great when I'm dealing with large groups of enemies and need to keep my head on a swivel as I'm surveying the field. Now, the drawback of third person is the recoil, which in my opinion is much more pronounced. When I want accuracy, I switch into first person mode, and while you still have to deal with some recoil, you have much more finite control over your aiming. If you head into the menus, you can further tweak your aim mode settings. There are 3 options here. Off means your weapons will always start in third-person mode. Per weapon means the game will recall the last used aim mode for each individual weapon, and then global means that all weapons will use the last selected aim mode. This is something I recommend everyone experiment with because your perspective does completely change your gameplay experience. One feature incredibly common in third-person shooters is the ability to change shoulders. This is especially important when you're constantly running backwards to find cover. Well, here again, the game doesn't tell you that's actually something players can do during combat. Head into the settings again, go to your keybinds, and then head to the combat section. There, towards the bottom, you'll see Switch Camera Side, which you can set to whatever your preferred input is. This will allow you to swap shoulders mid-combat, changing your sight lines and making your combat approach more flexible. To take this a step further, I bet you didn't know every weapon has different firing settings that you can access by holding the reload button. Each weapon is different, and things like fire rate, scope zoom percentage, and even bullet RPMs can be tweaked. You'll need to experiment with each gun because they all bring something different to the table, but the option allows you to really dial in your preferred playstyle. Holding down this reload button also lets you check exactly how many rounds you have left in your magazine. This is important for a reason you may not realize. Weapons in Helldivers 2 actually reload faster when ammo is still in the magazine. Normally, this is something we'd advise against since you waste whatever ammo is still in the mag upon reloading. However, if you time your reload with 1 round still in the magazine, you will actually reload much faster than normal. I know this is a lot to keep in mind when things are getting crazy, but this can actually quite literally save your life, especially with weapons like the machine gun that take forever to reload while also forcing you to be stationary. If there's one thing I wish Helldivers 2 took a bit more time to explain early on, it's some of the communication systems in the game. I'm a big fan of dynamic maps and ping systems, and the team hardly covered that during the tutorial. Nevertheless, we've got you covered. First thing you need to know is that there is a mark feature in the game. On PC, this defaults to Q, and you can quickly press the button to mark something in the game world. If you hold that designated button, again, Q on PC, you open up a comms wheel which gives you more options for communication. As someone that doesn't always like voice comms, I was relieved that this was built into the game. This can be a potent combination with drop pods as you're respawning in. If your team constantly keeps these big threats marked, you'll be able to see them when respawning, allowing you to use your drop pod navigation to kill an elite target, turning a detrimental situation into a positive one. To expand still further, let's talk about the tactical map. By tapping tab on PC, you will bring this up. If you then hold the right mouse button, you can drag around the map and see the entire battlefield. Better still, when you want to communicate with your team about a specific point of interest, you can left-click and drop a pin. Once again, not something the game ever tells you and hugely important to communicating with your team. These features are all transferable to PlayStation, you'll just have to look up the button inputs since I don't have a PlayStation. Helldivers 2 isn't just about completing main objectives. In fact, each mission is ripe with opportunities that you should always be actively looking to complete. When looking at your map, notice red zones. These indicate areas of interest and danger. It might seem like you want to avoid them, but the contrary is actually true. By exploring these zones, you'll discover side objectives like bug nests or automaton camps that you'll want to destroy for some easy XP and requisition points. Everything feeds into the overall progression system, and the more you do during a mission, the more you stand to gain when you extract. Don't forget to also keep an eye out for samples. These are found around points of interest and act as a secondary currency used to add new ship modules to your base. These provide blanket improvements to your various different categories of stratagems, and should be something you always look to collect. As mission difficulties ramp up, these not only increase in rarity, but frequency as well, giving you ample incentive to run missions at higher and higher difficulties. Remember, if you die, you have to go pick up any drop samples, as they're not worth losing. You should also always keep an eye on the mission timer. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, it might feel like a lot of time at the start, but that's a ticking clock that can easily sneak up on you if you're not paying attention. Try not to get bogged down between points of interest, and instead, always push towards the next objective. Use those map tricks I taught you before because, quite honestly, they make a world of difference. One of our biggest tips for long-term success has been to identify where any and all side objectives are, drop near those, and plan a loop that ultimately ends you at the extraction point. This might take a minute to map out early on, but it will save you a ton of time backtracking between points of interest in the long run, netting you a lot more XP and resources in a shorter amount of time. Between missions, don't forget to check out the full stratagems list back at your base. I've talked to a few people online that didn't know you can actually scroll down that list, which is wild considering how many options there really are. I fully expect this list to expand in the near future as more content is added, so by completing as many objectives as you can and unlocking as many stratagems as possible, you'll be ready for whatever the game throws at us next. Finally, be aware that various armor sets in the game actually have bonuses. This is something I didn't realize until I was actually in the armory changing my gear, but I believe it's something you need to know before that when considering a purchase in the requisition center. By tapping the info button, you'll see what bonuses a piece of armor has. At the moment, only chest pieces have a bonus, but I fully expect this to change with the introduction of new gear. One of the fundamental principles of Helldivers 2 is making sure your loadout can handle the pressures of the mission you're about to embark on, but sometimes the side objectives within a mission demand something unique. When you reach one of these side objectives, make sure to check your stratagem call-ins. In many cases, new field options will be available to you that will help you complete that objective. There's one in particular I'm thinking about that I believe a lot of players might be missing: the Hell Bomb. When you reach an objective and you're tasked with destroying key buildings, don't waste your grenades or bombardments. Check your stratagems and see if you have anything new available. In many cases, you'll be able to call down something new that doesn't tap into your resource pool. And while this isn't a huge issue on the easier difficulties, it's wildly impactful the harder the game becomes. This also applies to other side objectives. In some cases, you may need to call down a data probe or upload data, or something similar. And while not as fantastical as the Hell Bomb, it's still essential to completing that objective. Long story short, always check your stratagems at objectives to see if something new is available. Speaking of stratagems, I've got a very special tip for PC players that are looking to squeak out every possible advantage they can. If you have access to a keyboard macro program, you can load up any number of stratagem call-ins for near instant access to your loadout, because all stratagems have a unique button input combination that never changes. Obviously, this requires a bit of pre-work, but man is it effective when in the heat of combat. Is it entirely legit? No, not really, but neither is war. If you're familiar with the game's progression system, then you know there are two things at play: medals and super credits. Both are important for unlocking gear and cosmetics, and they should always be in the back of your mind while on a mission. There are two things I want to point out here. First is that you should always keep your eyes peeled for small pulsing golden beacons. These are found randomly throughout the battlefield, and they should always be a priority because they're actually emergency supply drops that contain something valuable. If you're lucky, you'll get either medals or super currency, but you can also receive other things like stims or weapons. Either way, when you see a beacon, you should stop. And speaking of things hidden in plain sight, keep your eyes peeled for half-buried cargo containers found randomly throughout the world. Don't just jump on top of them, use a grenade or small explosive to pop them open, revealing the contents inside. Again, if you're lucky and you hit the jackpot, you'll receive everything from ammo to medals and super currency. Regardless, there's always something valuable inside, so don't pass them by. One of the most important things to consider when playing Helldivers 2 is your loadout, but more importantly, how your loadout could synergize within a team. One of the most essential weapons you can bring to a battle is the recoilless rifle, which is capable of destroying vehicles with ease. These things are a game changer, and if you're the Helldiver that brings them to the battle, you best know their full capabilities. While not always the active front, the recoilless rifle is a prime example of a weapon that's powerful enough to remove one of the biggest obstacles on the automaton front, the bot drop. This weapon can single-handedly take the dropship out of the sky so long as you're accurate. Not only does this destroy all of the bots on the ship, but it saves your team from having to deal with a wave of new enemies. Scout enemies are present in both the Terminids and the Automatons, and one thing you'll want to do as a Helldiver is constantly scan the enemies in an area and take out any that are calling in reinforcements. If you manage to kill them fast enough, you won't have to deal with bot drops and bug breaches, but that's only if you identify and take them out quickly. I think most Helldiver 2 veterans will agree that heavy weapons weren't always viewed as the most valuable assets on the battlefield, but that dynamic has completely changed in Helldivers 2. So consider dropping in a mission with a little extra firepower next time you play. You know, being a good Helldiver isn't just about offense. Sometimes you need to support your teammates as well. I've got 2 little known tips that I wanted to share with you all. First off, if an ally is close to dying, specifically below 50%, and out of their own stims, you can share your drugs with a buddy. All you need to do is simply run up to them while they're low, and you'll be able to interact with them, healing them and helping them live to fight another day. Another stims tip that you might not realize is that they also replenish your stamina and keep you from expending stamina for a brief period of time after use. If you're in a particularly hairy situation and you have the stims to spare, being able to sprint for twice the distance can be the deciding factor between life or death. If you're a real Helldiver support, you might also opt to call in the supply pack stratagem. This allows you to restock your fellow soldiers' ammunition, which is invaluable, but you can also use it on yourself. On PC, any backpack equipment can be used by default by tapping the 5 key. You can of course rebind this in the menu under the combat section, and it's called Use Backpack function. You're going to want to know how to utilize this in the future, so best learn the ropes now. Now, another useful tip about this backpack is that you can replenish these slots with the kits that you find in resupply pods. If your whole squad is topped off, your supply pack has empty slots, and your resupply drop is off cooldown, absolutely call that in and refill your supply pack. This helps ensure you can always restock your allies or yourself when in the heat of battle. If you didn't already know, there are multiple side objectives found throughout each mission. These range from activating radio towers, which reveal all points of interest on your map once complete, to the artillery emplacement that you can activate, load up with ammunition, and then use via a new stratagem throughout the rest of the mission. First and foremost, you need to understand the basics. The emplacement needs to be loaded up with 5 artillery shells that can be found nearby the actual battery. Each artillery shell is different, and you'll get a random assortment near each emplacement. Red shells are explosive, yellow shells are small nukes, white is smoke, green is tox screen, and blue is a static field. The order with which you load these shells into the artillery emplacement determines the order that they're fired, so keep that in mind as you and your team are loading up, because it can make a huge difference later when calling in the stratagem. This whole process can be expedited by using the simple spam interact trick. By constantly pressing the interact button, you will continuously pick up and drop the artillery shells, allowing you to move quicker than you would normally. Again, not the most legit way to conduct business, but movement is already dreadfully slow in Helldivers 2, and every second does make a difference. So there you have it, 10 things I wish I knew sooner about Helldivers 2. What is your current favorite tip or trick? Share it down below and spread some knowledge with our great community. As always, if you like our Wish I Knew Sooner series and you want more videos like this for whatever new game comes out, be sure to hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching and play on.